welcome to the Go Legal Yourself podcast. This show is about knowing the legal life cycle of your business. Welcome to the Go Legal Yourself podcast, episode 37, title, How Do I Get Money for My Business? I'm your host, attorney Kelly Bagla, the queen of business law. You can interact with us on social media with Go Legal Yourself, and definitely do find us on the web at golegalyourself.com. So knowledge is power, and at Go Legal Yourself, we pride ourselves on bringing you knowledge from the best experts in the industry who know business inside out. Get ready for a life-changing show as we empower all business owners and entrepreneurs to dare to become successful. This is the show about helping you become successful entrepreneurs, and we thrive on bringing you education that gives you the tools to run your business with confidence. Today is that show where we interview experts in the business who can help you become a successful business. Today I'm joined by Chuck Sinks. He's a small business advisor and he's with the CDC Small Business Finance. Welcome, Chuck.
Thanks, Kelly. I'm glad to be here.
It's fantastic to have you this morning. So as I ask all of my guests, would you be kind enough to share your favorite attorney joke with us?
Well, I love attorneys, especially when you need one.
Exactly.
A joke. So there was an attorney. He's kind of living the dream. Maybe on his second wife, has the hair plugs and he's rocking and rolling.
Pinstripe suit,
oh, yeah. Convertible car, the nice shades, and he's going down the road, and sure enough, bam, has a heart attack and he's gone. And so he goes up to the pearly gates and, he waits in line and he talks to St. Peter and says, St. Peter, why me? I'm rocking and rolling. I'm at the prime of my life. Why'd you take me? I'm 43 years old. I'm just hitting my stride, why? St. Peter says, okay, checks his name, says, you're Frank Jones, you're attorney in Florida. Yep, okay, Frank Jones. And St. Peter checks his records and says, so how old are you, Frank? And Frank says, well, I'm 43, St. Peter. And he says, well, gee, Frank, I have these billing statements here that say you're 143.
Yes, for those of you who don't know how attorneys normally do charge, it's billable hours. That's hilarious, right. Chuck. Yes. Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome. And I'm still here and I'm sitting with an attorney.
Exactly. Nothing's been thrown at you yet.
That's right.
So you and I have known each other for a while now, I would say.
We have.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been great.
It has. It really has. And having someone like you in my back pocket, because this is what I do day in, day out. I help entrepreneurs start businesses, grow businesses, and eventually sell businesses. And tell us a little bit about yourself, because you have an extremely interesting background. You're not just an advisor. You actually used to be a business owner.
That's correct. Kelly, I tell my wife and others that when I went and joined the CDC Small Business Finance, it was actually my first, quote-unquote, real job. I started out out of college and got involved in a small healthcare training business that grew into a nationwide training business. We started a publishing company as an offshoot of that. And one thing led to another. And we started, this is a long time ago, back in the 80s, early 90s. Before the internet and so forth. Mm-hmm. But we started getting into digital publishing, which was kind of an up-and-coming technology at the time. So instead of printing all of our materials sort of ink and water, which was the old school way at the time, we started putting things on disk.
Are you dating yourself?
I'm dating myself. But it was a big breakthrough. But then we could sort of print on demand. And we had some fairly large print volumes because we were training a lot of folks. And I went to college with a friend, who had gone to work for Xerox and then later went into the leasing business. And I went to go buy a Xerox high-speed laser printer so we could print all this material overnight. And we needed a high-volume printer to do that. And one thing led to another. He said, no, you don't need to buy new. You can buy them used and so forth. So my relationship at the training business was coming to an end, and I got bought out. So I went into business with my college friend, and we started selling high-speed used Xerox laser printing systems. And one thing led to another. We opened up 5 offices, and we actually ended up getting acquired by a publicly traded company NASDAQ traded company.
Wow, Chuck, every business owner, every entrepreneur, that's their dream, right? You start something because you have passion for it, and then eventually you would love to be bought out by a bigger competitor.
Right. Right, and we were, very happy, but they brought a lot to the table as far as capital, access to capital, and so forth, because of a capital-intensive business, and we were just kind of lumpy and dumpy out here in the West Coast. So when we started to get acquired by a publicly traded company, we sort of got into the big leagues in a hurry, and we had some good attorneys with us that really made the difference, and we were now on an even footing, with the folks that were coming at us, from New York. So that worked out great, and then the same partner and I got involved in a couple of real estate projects after our involvement with that came to an end. And then we got involved with a turnaround situation at a custom primary market research firm where they were in some trouble. And we went in there, got the organization back on kind of even footing, and then we turned around and grew it. And pretty quickly after that, it was a 5 or 7 year evolution, I guess, that I realized that the folks around me were a heck of a lot smarter than me. So I sold my interest to them, and they were very bright statisticians and so forth. So then a little free time, and then the economic, the Great Recession was kind of taking hold in 2010, something like that. And then I had some friends at the CDC Small Business Finance. They're the largest SBA 504 lender in the country. They have a portfolio, or we have a portfolio, of about 3,500 businesses that have SBA loans, primarily to purchase commercial real estate, but we also have working capital loans through our Community Advantage program and our SBA microloan programs. But the meat and potatoes, or the largest part of the portfolio, is the 504 loan. And you can imagine, when the economic downturn really started to take hold, a lot of small business owners had to purchase their commercial property, from which they operated their business, were now kind of caught in a triple witch, where they had bought the real estate at what's now an inflated value. Their business activity was in decline, and they were saddled with very high principal and interest payments.
Before you jump ahead, just explain, what is a 504 loan?
So a 504 loan is it's a little bit of a jumbled up an acronym for a 50-40-10 loan. So think about a husband and wife running a cement contracting business, for instance. And it's a family business. It's taken off. They might have $3 to $5 million in revenue annually, but there's a roll-up door in the back where the trucks and the equipment go in and out to run the jobs. The bookkeeping and the marketing and all that sort of stuff is done in the front office. And the opportunity presents itself where this business can buy their commercial building. So instead of paying lease payments for the next 25 or 30 years, they actually have the opportunity to buy the building. So they go to their bank, and the banker says, look, I love your depositor relationship, but you're not bankable for a commercial real estate loan. But there's this program with the CDC Small Business Finance where the bank only has to loan 50% of the project, which is the 5. The SBA will come in second position and loan 40%, which is the 4. And then the business owner has to inject 10, which is the 0. So 504, a little bit of a jumbled acronym. And I'm not sure that was by design, but that's how I think about it.
Okay.
And so now the business owners can start building equity in this property. And it's a great scenario in an environment of even commercial real estate values or increasing commercial real estate values.
When should a business owner start thinking about actually buying the building that they're doing business
That's
in?
A great question. So the business is going to have to be established. They're going to have a track record of profitability.
What do you mean established?
Well, established,
years?
Yeah, in the sense that the example I just gave, where the business has grown to maybe $5 million of run rate from a revenue perspective. They have to be a profitable business, and then it really gets down to a cash flow analysis. Right. That's how the lenders look at it. So for the lease payments they're making now, added to the profitability, is there enough cash flow there to service the debt that the business is going to take on to purchase the building?
Got it. So anyone that knows me, Chuck, they know that numbers and I don't get along at all. That's why I went to law school, right?
Yeah.
So if you can break it down for the audience that's exactly like me, we don't understand numbers, just in plain English, there has to be a certain amount of profit that the company makes. Mm-hmm. It's not really based on the amount of years that they've been in business. And that's probably so they're bringing in more money than is going out. That's probably when you start thinking about buying the building.
Yeah. I mean, if you're showing a profit, and it really boils down to cash flow, which is a little different than profit. Okay.
Right.
So cash flow, there's add backs and that sort of thing. And the folks at CDC, we have experts that do this all day long. And some deals get complicated. I mean, everything is not straightforward cookie cutter. There's opportunities where you can buy the building that's already been built, mm-hmm. like the example we just described, or there's opportunities to build a custom building coming out of the ground. And it's a little different scenario. But at the end of the day, it boils down, does the company have cash flow to service the debt? And the way that a banker will look at it, or the CDC will look at it, and as well as a commercial bank, is it's typically a debt coverage ratio. In other words, if the principal and interest payments are, let's just say it's a $10,000 a month, the company's going to have $11,000 a month of free cash flow. Okay. So basically 1.1.
Okay.
Is kind of that's the minimum. Anything north of that is going to be great. But if a company isn't showing profitability and the cash flow to service the debt or support the debt, no one's going to make you a loan.
Got it.
That said, with the structure of the 504 loan, again, which is an area that I work with every single day. I work primarily with borrowers that are involved with our Community Advantage program, which are working capital loans for much smaller, earlier stage businesses, and our SBA microloans, and we have a fast to fund loan. That's a non-SBA product, but those are much smaller, micro to small businesses. The 504 businesses are a little bit more established. They've been in business a little longer time, and the revenues are probably, I would say, this is a guess, but average somewhere in the $3 to $5 million range.
Right. So one of the number one reasons why a business fails, in addition to not having the legal ducks in a row, is either they don't have enough money, they run out of money, or they never really started with enough money to start their business. So if a person is interested in starting a business, right, they want a storefront, and then they want to sell products, it can be anything. What advice would you give to that business owner before they even go and start renting a storefront?
A great question, and it's really kind of gets into the heart of the folks that we deal with every single day on advising perspective. And these are smaller startup businesses. These are folks that are years away from a 504 loan that we just talked about. So these are earlier stage businesses, and they're looking for that initial working capital to try to get their initiative off the ground.
Yeah, I like the way you set this up, Chuck. I think that was deliberately done because you're showing the audience the bigger picture. This is where you can go, right? You can actually own your own business, let alone the property that you're running your business through. So now if we backtrack to the beginning, how would we do this?
Right. So, and there's a lot of different options out there, and capital is it's kind of the lifeblood of a business. But before you even take that step, you need, as an entrepreneur with an idea that's seed, okay, you need to sit down and build a business plan, and you need to be very, very honest. And there's
ding,
yes.
Business. I have spoken about business plans multiple times on multiple episodes. It's definitely important,
right? And we've partnered with a really cool company out there called LivePlan. It's very inexpensive, but LivePlan is an online business plan development site where there's all kinds of different metrics that they pull in for the industry category that your prospective business is in. You can pull in all kinds of different financial metrics. And when you start doing your financial projections, you'll know instantaneously whether you're, over wishing, that this thing's going to be more profitable than it is, because the industry isn't showing that.
Right.
So, but what happens is as you build the plan, you also get a pitch deck that's sort of developed online simultaneously. And we've used it with a lot of our clients. It's a very, very cool tool. But that's sort of step one. And then, once you really have to think it through.
And a pitch deck is?
A pitch deck is when you would go out to a bank or you'd go out to a landlord, or you'd go out to an investor. And this really says that you've sat down and you've given this idea a heck of a lot of thought. And when things go on paper, or in this case, on the computer, and it comes out in paper, it is magic.
Perfect.
Because you're not just freewheeling some idea. You've sat down and you've put pen to paper. You've got the calculator out. You've built a spreadsheet. You've done projections, and you've taken all the steps. You've done the market research and that sort of thing, and you understand where this business is going to fit and if it is a viable concern.
Right. And most of the time, potential business owners, they only have one shot.
Right.
One shot. So you better show up prepared.
Right.
So pitch deck. Okay.
That's right. And then once that's done and you're comfortable that this concept has some legs, then the next step is okay, so how do I get it off the ground? And then there's a lot of different resources out there. There's SBDCs, which are small business development companies around town that you can look up that the SBA sponsors, and they run all kinds of very informative workshops. There's attorneys there.
I've actually attended some of those too. They're very, very good.
Right. SCORE is a really good resource. Yeah. And but if you get involved with our organization, where you're looking for capital, we have business advisors like myself. We have a staff that can help, and we have loan officers that can hold someone's hand through the SBA process.
How much is it going to cost to sit down with you?
Zero.
Yeah. I think you should repeat that one more time,
Zero.
Chuck.
So if you're if you're a client and you've submitted a loan application to the CDC Small Business Finance, and you need some business advising, we're happy to help. But let me just step back one step, Kelly, if I may, and in this search for capital.
Yes.
And there are a lot of different resources out there. Okay, some are better than others, and if you don't mind, I'd like to spend a minute on that because
Absolutely.
It's very, very important. And I deal with a lot of small business owners that have gone down the wrong path in securing this early stage capital, primarily debt capital, and they've paid the price. And so the fallout from the Great Recession, 2009, 2010, 2011, the commercial banks, for all intents and purposes, sort of vacated what we call the kind of the lower end of the working capital small business lending market. And that's, let's just say it's $500,000 or less, might be even $750,000. And the reason being is that after the Great Recession, there was a lot of regulations and documentation requirements and so forth that were put on community banks, regional banks, national banks to document loans and so forth as part of the underwriting. And really what that meant is that from a expense perspective from the bank side, it didn't make any sense for them to originate loans in that space. So effectively, they sort of vacated that space. The need was still there. There's small business owners, there's entrepreneurs that need that $100,000, $250,000, $500,000 loan to get their enterprise off the ground after they built the plan.
Right, exactly.
Okay, but so that void was quickly filled by entrepreneurs. Okay, very smart business people that had gone out and secured private capital, not like a bank through deposit relationships with depositors, but these are private enterprises that have gone out and secured capital from investors and others, Wall Street, to finance loans. And these loans are typically, there's the cabbages, the on decks, the canned capitals. There's hundreds of them. And they're called fintech lenders, financial technology lenders, alternative lenders, so forth. And what will happen is you can go in there with a very small amount of information, some bank account information, credit card information, so forth and so on. You can fill out an application online, and you can get funded a lot of times overnight, a couple of days. And what happens is this information goes into an algorithm because they cannot take the time to have the proper underwriting done with people that can really dig into the financials and understand what the financial outlook or the prospects of this new enterprise look like. But there's an algorithm that will go out, and they'll capture all kinds of data off the internet, and they'll profile you from a credit risk perspective, although it's a little flimsy. I think the algorithms get better all the time, but they'll say, great, Kelly, yeah, we can loan you $50,000 tomorrow, and sign the paperwork, send it back to us. You can sign online in a lot of instances, and we're going to take an origination fee of maybe $5 $5,000 out of the 50, but you'll net 45. And we're going to start taking daily payments out of your checking account of, pick a number, I don't know, $500 a day. And you're going to pay this thing back in 11 months, whatever the math is. And you say, great, because you just need that capital to get your enterprise off the ground. You're excited about it, and there's no other place to go that you know of. And off you go. Well, all of a sudden, and I'm looking at an article right here, it just happened, but these folks had a bakery. They borrowed $133,000. They got a big order from Sprouts or something for their baked goods, and they had an oven breakdown, and they needed capital fast in order to fill this purchase order. So they ended up paying back a total of $193,000.
Good Lord.
So they paid $60,000 of interest for a $133,000 loan in a very short period of time. So the key takeaway from all this is that the APR on these fintech loans, these online loans, is oftentimes very high double-digit or triple-digit APRs. Okay, so if you went out and bought a car today and somebody told you, hey, Kelly, I'm going to charge you 99% interest to buy this beautiful Toyota Highlander. And you say, no way. I can go get money for 3% or 3.5%. And you're gonna run, not walk away from that,
from
that deal. But what the fintech lenders have been very good at is they're very opaque, and it's a business loan. It's not a consumer loan, so all the protections are different. The consumer loan, there's all kinds of protections for consumers. Mm-hmm. But now you're in the big leagues. You have a business, and you're expected to have some level of financial acumen to figure this out. And a lot of people, early stage, might not. They haven't
just
been
like
there.
Me.
Yeah. So you say, I need that money to start. $5,000 to originate it, a couple $100 a day, blah, blah, blah. I don't care.
First of all, they don't even know. Entrepreneurs don't know what questions to ask, especially when they are when they're out looking for money. Thank you so much, Chuck, for bringing this up. And it's extremely important because nowadays everything is digital. And how many times a day do you get in your email, we have pre-qualified you for $50,000. We have pre-qualified you for $100,000.
Right.
This is exactly what we're talking about right now.
Right. And we have small business owners that have a going concern. They'll work with Square or PayPal or something like that, and they will get offers for merchant cash advances, which is a very, very high cost capital. And what a merchant cash advance is, MCA is sort of the nomenclature in the industry. But a merchant cash advance is again, we'll use this bakery as an example, but these folks might have credit card swipes, every day that, I don't know, pick a number. It might be, $500-$700 a day of credit card. People coming in and buying their baked goods, and they're using credit cards. But the Square or the merchant that's clearing these credit card transactions, okay, when you swipe the card in your business, it goes into a merchant. They take their fee, 3% or wherever it is, and the rest goes in your bank account. And that's fine. But now they have a track record of what kind of business activity you're doing on credit cards every single day. And they can average that over a period of time and so forth and so on. And sure enough, when you go in there to look at, what your credit card swipes look like in your report with your online service, be it, let's just use Square for an example, this little offer pops up. Ding! Kelly, right. You can get $25,000 tomorrow.
Yes.
And we're going to take 17 or 18% of your credit card swipes and every day and until it's paid off. Do you want that money? And you might be staring down the barrel of a payroll or something, and you say, yeah, I'll do that. What you don't know, again, is the APR. And the APR is the absolute gold standard when you're evaluating what it costs you to borrow money. Okay? What an APR. And if you don't know the APR, don't hit yes. Know the APR. And the APR is really, like I said, is the gold standard. And it's the only way a business owner can really compare the cost of capital between one alternative and another. And a lot of these companies, as I mentioned before, are very opaque on APRs.
Yes.
Okay, it's the daily payments and so forth and so on. And a merchant cash advance, again, if you're high double digits APR, you're probably doing pretty good. Most of them are triple digits.
Wow.
And it's mind-numbing because the return you have to generate from whatever enterprise you're engaged with to service that debt and make a profit, there's not very many industries around that I know of that can do that.
So, Chuck, if someone's looking for some money, let's just say $50,000, where would they need to go?
Well, so I did a lot of work on this with some folks at the CDC. We were developing a loan product for some of our 504 products, a working capital product, and we dug into this whole fintech world pretty aggressively. And admittedly, this was probably 2 years ago now, maybe 18 months. But what we came up with was basically a graph, okay? And on the y-axis was cost. That's the vertical one. And on the x-axis is the horizontal one, is effort. And the lower the effort, the higher the costs. So an example is this merchant cash advance doesn't get any easier than that. This thing shows up, ding, it's right on your screen. You hit yes, the money comes in, and boom, they start taking their daily percentage of your credit card swipes, which impacts the cash flow of your business,
of course,
which has all kinds of ripple effects. But that is very low effort, very high cost. These fintech loans we were talking about with the bakery example and so forth, it's just, not a lot of effort, very high cost.
Right.
If you go further out on the effort axis, which is X, okay, you're going to get into SBA loans, okay? You're going to get into some other, cash flow loans and so forth that are more effort. In other words, there's more documentation on the business owner's part. You're going to have to, there's an underwriting process on the lender's part. And basically what's happening is they are getting to know you as a business owner and how responsible you are with managing your personal finances and your business finances. And the more responsible you are, the more comfortable the lender gets, which means they can charge a lower rate.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But there's that little four-letter word between you and a lower rate. It's called work.
Okay. I'm thinking of another word,
yeah,
but okay.
Yeah. And you have to gather the documentation. You're going to work with a loan officer who's going to be in your court trying to help you. And typically, the cost of capital for an SBA Community Advantage loan or SBA microloan, or even our Fast to Fund loan, which is a non-SBA product, but we can typically get clients funded in about 30 days, is going to be the SBA products are probably somewhere between 8 and 10%. APR with a 10-year amortization or a 5-year amortization for a microloan. Our Fast to Fund product's probably going to be its prime in 10, I think, something like that. But again, that is a sort of a short-term product, but it's 15% as opposed to 90%.
Wow.
It's, yeah.
I can't even imagine, seriously.
It is. And we've refinanced a lot of these people that have come to us in really dire straits because their cash flow has been decimated by some of these online products, and they're desperate to get out of it. And, we have to go through the underwriting process. We have to go through the due diligence, but that's why the rates are low. Because why? Effort. We're way out on the end of that x-axis.
We'll be doing a series on how to find funding or how to find money for your business in the upcoming episodes. And in the very near future, I'll be actually interviewing a local investor. And he's a wealth of information. He's been around the block. He has owned his own businesses, sold his own businesses, and he'll be laying out exactly, as an investor, what does he look for in a business. Some businesses, they think that I can go out and find money fairly easy. Absolutely you can. You just mentioned some of the ways, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. Right? Are you willing to put that much money on the line just for a short amount of money at the beginning? So money is an issue for business owners. They can work really, really hard trying to build their business, and then they have been they can be turned away from big banks, as you mentioned earlier. SBA, you've mentioned that multiple times. For a business owner that is seriously looking to grow their business, they need to get to the next step, and they don't have enough funding, but they have to go out and get a loan. So would you recommend that they go and the first step would be to go to their small, an SBA? Well,
yeah, there's Community Development Corporation, like CDC is, and I'll throw this in there. CDCloans.com is a great place to go.
Perfect. Yep.
There's 270 of them or so around the United States. So the areas that we cover, we're regional. are California, Arizona, and Nevada. But if there's a small business owner within the range of our voice in this podcast that's in one of those geographies, go to cdcloans.com, and there's an application right there online, and you can get started that way. You can learn everything you need to know about it. We've been the CDC's been at this for 40 years. Here in San Diego. Mm-hmm. I think I mentioned earlier we're the largest 504 lender in the United States, and we're also the largest community advantage lender, which is another SBA program. It's for working capital or purchase, if you want to buy a business, for instance, of $250,000 or less. We also have an SBA microloan, which is for $50,000 or less. And again, those last two products I mentioned, the Community Advantage and the SBA microloan, are really targeted towards those earlier stage businesses. The 504 loan, again, is a commercial real estate product primarily, and those are for businesses that are more established.
Right.
And we spend our life from an advising perspective, 90% of our life, are working with these small entrepreneurial businesses that are involved with the Community Advantage loan, the SBA microloan, our Fast to Fund loan, and some other working capital products that we have. And but I think a key differentiator maybe between this other guest that you're going to have on a future podcast and getting debt capital is debt capital will come. It's a debt. It's
yes.
a loan that you get.
Right.
But what happens is you don't give up any equity in your business.
Exactly.
You still own, if you have 100% equity in the business, or if 50-50 with a partner, typically a private equity investor will invest equity for just that reason. Okay,
yes.
And it's because they want a piece of the equity of the business. It's like Shark Tank,
of course.
Right? If they're going to invest money, I want 25 or whatever Mark Cuban thinks he can get, he's going to get.
Right.
And you give that up.
Exactly. I personally like Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah, I do too. He's kind of hard, but I like him.
I do too. Yeah.
I like Mark Cuban though.
Yeah.
So, but the debt capital is, I think, the access to it is easier, and it's and again, you retain ownership and control of your business.
That's a great point to bring up, because that's exactly what we're going to explore too. What type of funding's available out there for business owners, but the type of business owners that are looking for either loans or they actually are looking to grow their business with maybe bringing on an investor. So we're going to explore all of this. So this is fantastic timing. I really appreciate you coming in and talking to the audience about how to find money.
Well, Kelly, thanks. I mean, it's always wonderful to be with you, and I always leave here smarter than when I came in. So,
oh, how sweet. And I didn't pay him to say that, by the way.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Chuck, we can't let you off that easy. Would you mind sharing share two stories with us? One which is not so successful, and two which is a really successful business that you helped.
So, yeah, so there was a very hardworking, passionate entrepreneur that I worked with that made cupcakes. And she, before we got involved, had rented a storefront in the South Bay area here in town. And I'd never met a harder working person in my life. I mean, she was at this store all the time. I mean, unbelievable hours, and had her family involved and so forth. Her husband had a job outside of the business, but was very supportive of this endeavor. And the one thing that we couldn't get over was that she had signed a lease in a retail space that wasn't ideal for a lot of different reasons. And the storefront faced the wrong way. The area was a little bit distressed from a retail perspective. The rents were high. She was doing baking and so forth in very high cost per square foot space. And eventually it crushed her, that was very, very hard. And we worked hard. She worked hard, but finally it just didn't work. And that one really hurt because we worked so hard, and she was such a dedicated entrepreneur.
Those are the ones that you're rooting for.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Well, I root for them all because, anybody that takes that step, Kelly, anybody that is an entrepreneur or that goes in business for themselves, that's a different breed of cat.
Completely, Chuck. That's why we are here to provide knowledge for entrepreneurs, because we're in their corner. We're trying to support them become successful.
Right. And it's hard.
It is.
You know, and anybody that steps out on that, there's no net, right?
Exactly.
And the folks that we deal with are all in. I mean, there's 401ks in. You know, when I was dealing with folks during the economic downturn, I mean, you know, marriage relationships, or the whole thing, it's all in. It's all in there. And if this enterprise doesn't work, the outcomes are catastrophic, you know, and
Absolutely.
Personally, financially, and otherwise. So anybody that takes that step, have tremendous respect for them. And this country is where it is because of people like that. It's
Absolutely.
a special kind of DNA that makes that happen. And God bless the people that do it. And if we can help them, let's do it.
No, this truly is a land of opportunity. As you very well know, I was born and raised in England.
Yes.
It's not a third world country, but I have gotten more opportunities here in the States than I would have back home. And I'm able to live the American dream, Chuck. You know, if I can do it, someone that wasn't born and raised here, I'm sure somebody else that really wants to go out and own a piece of the American dream, right? Why get up and go to work for someone when you can get up and work for yourself? It's the feeling for working for yourself and being successful at it is a feeling like no other. It's pretty incredible. And that is Chuck's phone that's ringing, and we did ask our guest to turn his phone off, but that's okay. I'm not going to hold that against you, Chuck.
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. You're absolutely fine. So share with us a successful story.
So a success story is a gal that I've done a lot of work with. She has not a yoga studio, but it's a bar method studio. It's here in San Diego. She started out very passionate about the yoga craft and the bar method craft and so forth, and is dedicated to it and is phenomenally good at it. And she has a studio. She got an SBA microloan, built it up, and we spent a lot of time together. As part of the SBA microloan, business advising is a mandatory component of it. So at the CDC, once your SBA microloan closes, you're assigned a business advisor that will work with you for a period of time. It can be 6 months or it could be 6 years. And one of the SBA rules is that once you're an SBA microloan borrower, you always are. So if Bill Gates started Microsoft with an SBA microloan, guess what? He could get business advising from us.
Fantastic.
If he wanted it.
There you go.
Yeah. But this young lady didn't really have the business side of things figured out, so we did a lot of work on projections. She had a customer relationship management program that she was using maybe 5% of, and we dug a little deeper in that, and she mined a lot of good metrics out of there as far as scheduling classes that at the opportune times. So she had more participation. And the business built and built and built, and she did have some credit card debt from doing some tenant improvements and so forth when she first opened her studio, and that was a problem. And we got to work on that. We actually refinanced her entire SBA microloan and the credit card debt with a SBA Community Advantage loan that really took down her debt service obligation, which improved her cash flow tremendously. And she's been off to the races, and still is going today. She's involved with the franchisor, the National Association of the Bar Method, where she's licensed, and she's doing a lot of work with them on the national level. So, there's so many wonderful stories like that, and it's really, our job is to try to help folks kind of stay within the navigational beacons, particularly from a financial perspective, making sure that they have good financial reporting that they can now use as a management tool. If you don't have a good balance sheet and an income statement and a statement of cash flows, the analogy I use a lot with our clients is it's like you're being a football coach trying to manage the team. You don't know what quarter it is, what down it is. I mean, do you punt? Do you run? Do you throw the bomb? You don't know.
Exactly.
Because you don't have the information. And And typically, early stage entrepreneurs, that's the one area that's lacking is the financial information, the QuickBooks information, that sort of thing. And once you get that, how do you use that to your advantage to better manage your business?
I bet you most entrepreneurs don't even know what they have currently in their bank account.
Well, a lot of them manage it from the bank account, but they don't have no idea what the P&L looks like. They have no idea what
what's going out,
accounts
right?
receivable,
What's coming in.
right?
Yep.
And it's all cash flow management. That's
Exactly.
critical in the early stages.
So share some parting words with us. What should an entrepreneur that's looking for money, what should they do today?
Well, if I could leave your audience with one thing, I would say this, is that if you don't know the APR, okay, the annual percentage rate of capital that you're going to borrow, don't borrow it. Okay, if somebody cannot explain to you exactly what the APR is and you understand it, you shouldn't take the funds. If you understand the APR, now you can make a good business decision, just like you would if you bought a house, a car, or any other asset. You would understand what the annual percentage rate is. And not interest rate, there's all kinds of different labels people can put on. I want an annual percentage rate.
Perfect.
And if there's daily deductions from either your credit card swipes or your bank account, if it was me, I wouldn't walk away from that deal.
So if you don't know your APR, that means you're going to lose your knickers. And I've mentioned that multiple times on the show from the beginning, Chuck. If you don't know your APR, you're going to lose your knickers.
Right.
If you don't want to lose your knickers, make sure you know the APR.
Exactly. I agree, Kelly. I couldn't agree more.
It's as simple as that, right?
It is.
Exactly.
It is.
So the graph that you were talking about, would you be kind enough to share that with the audience?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
We are going to put all of Chuck's information under the show notes of our episode, and also how you can directly get in contact with Chuck. We'll have all of his information on there. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, again, I would direct everyone to cdcloans.com. We have a lot of good information there. Our marketing department's phenomenal. We put out a blog that is unbelievable.
It pretty is, actually.
Very helpful. Kelly's contributed to that, but there's a lot of hands-on tips, techniques.
And can they sign up for the blog as well?
Yeah.
Oh,
yep.
perfect.
I get it every week.
Yep.
And it's our folks do a great job there. And the CDC Small Business Finance is our clients are like a family. We have a family of entrepreneurs there. We have our loan officers are unbelievable. We have our underwriting staff's incredible, and we're a nonprofit. We're there to help, and we want to stimulate economic activity here in our communities, and our group does a great job doing that.
cdcloans.com.
Yes. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you so much again, Chuck.
All right, Kelly, thank you, and I'll be checking your billing statement.
Yes, exactly.
I don't want you to leave us early.
Exactly, yes. And I do also want to mention that if you'd like to leave any feedback, or you would like Chuck to come back on the show at a later date, you can absolutely contact me directly from the app that you've just downloaded. By the way, you can download our app from the App Store. Just go just put in Go Legal Yourself and download the app. You'll have direct access to me. You can phone the show, leave me feedback, tell me how great Chuck was or not, I need to know so we can bring him back or not. So please do remember that the only way you become successful is if you make today the day you go legal yourself. I am Attorney Kelly Bagla, the Queen of Business Law, and it's been a pleasure being your host today. Until next time, cheers to your success.